Thank you. Thank you, please. No, enough already. And welcome to the Seventh Evan podcast. I'm your host, Evan Myers. You can follow me on Twitter at Seventh Evan. Spell it out, SEVENTH Evan. Thank you for joining us today. We have a lot to talk about. Some very pressing issues. But first, I would like to wish everyone a happy Christopher Columbus Day, which has since been taken over as Indigenous Peoples Day. The indigenous people have appropriated Christopher Columbus Day. I think it's always an interesting thing that when there's a holiday, there's an entire other group of people who are like, you shouldn't be celebrating this holiday. We get this with the 4th of July a little bit, right? Because it's overly patriotic. And so people are like, oh, well, America's racist. How can you celebrate this? You know, you get a little bit of that. On Christmas, you get the Grinches and the atheists. Oh, Jesus was born in September. Durr. Yeah, great. Thanks. Thank you for reminding us why you are alone on December 25th. There's always a crowd of people that have to find the opposite. They're contrarians, fundamentally. There's always... Contrarianism is a huge part of America. I don't know if this is one of those things I wonder if it's universal or if it is a uniquely American or Western thing. Where if I come to you and I say the day is beautiful, the sun is shining, life is good, and they go, well, there's kids starving in Africa. It's like, well, okay, I can't help you. If I come with the positive and your immediate reaction is the negative, that is a you problem. And I'm saying this as a sort of negative person. I think my friends think I'm more negative than I actually am, but I am relatively negative as a human. And I'm fine with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But if there's something good to be celebrated, you don't have to go, oh, well, there's these other things that are bad and we shouldn't celebrate at all. And that's just, I think that's a counterproductive mindset. I don't think that actually does anything for anybody. I think it's a way for dumb people to feel smart. They look at the masses and they go, well, the masses are all doing this thing and they're all wrong because I'm right and the masses are always wrong. It's like in the inverse, it's like people who they don't work on themselves. They just tear other people down, you know, and they hang out with losers or people that have potential but aren't finding their potential, I guess. They hang out with those types of people so that they can then feel better about themselves. It's almost like on the inverse, there's the people who they feel better by looking at everybody else and then going, oh, they're wrong, I'm right. Because they're all there, they're wrong, I'm right. It's common in music, right? People like, oh, I love, this song, and then the band becomes famous, and they're like, oh, the band's sold out. Everybody likes them, fuck the band now, because other people like them. Now, I think you can, and you do that with the movies too, right? Marvel is a great example. There's the people who, just eat that shit up like nothing. And then there's people who go, oh, Marvel, oh, the masses are so dumb. And listen, they're both right. That's kind of the thing, is that you're often both right? Marvel movies do in general suck. And they probably don't say a lot of good things about people or their movie watching habits or whatever. But on the flip side, fuck off. If you don't like something, you don't have to participate. That's what a free society is. It's not that I just get to go do the things that I want. It's also I don't have to do the things I don't want. I I don't have to participate. I don't like the Marvel movies as a whole, but I don't think that makes me smarter than everybody. I think it makes me have different tastes than the masses. And that's always my argument with those kinds of things that I don't like, whether it be movies or music that everyone else seems to like, is that I think in the long run, most people will generally agree with me. And that's not why I base the opinion. I could be the last person in the room saying I don't like Marvel. I don't give a fuck. But it isn't. It's because that's how I feel. But there are good Marvel movies. And there are good, even the shittiest Marvel movie is still entertaining, which is what those movies aim to do. That's their priority. So there's nothing wrong with going against the grain, but there's also nothing wrong with going with the grain if it works for you. I think there's nothing wrong with that. But we do this with holidays too. Like I brought up Christmas earlier. You know how many people I ever listen to who go, oh, fuck Christmas, oh, Santa Claus, Jesus was born in September. Durr. You know, whenever you get those kinds of people, you go, what's your favorite holiday? They go, Halloween. Halloween is my favorite holiday. And I'm like, listen, I like Halloween. I do like Halloween. But the magic of Halloween is not what it was when I was a kid. When I was a kid, Halloween was I get to dress up and get all this candy. And I liked it. I like playing dress up. I like to be a character as a Roman soldier one year for Halloween. You know, I've been a hobo. My brother was this is where I would get canceled if I ever was worth a damn, is they'd find this photo. My brother was a Union soldier and I was a Confederate soldier. We went together. I was probably 10 years old. He might have been 14. This was a time where people go, oh, you're dressed up like these guys. My grandma made the costumes. Cancel them. So I understand why Halloween's fun. I've gone to house parties for Halloween and dressed up and have had it's always a great time. But is it my favorite? Not since I was 12 years old and getting fatter by eating Reese's and Hershey's and all the good shit that they load you up with sugar with. Not since then. And yeah, oh, girls dress skanky. Okay. Go to the fucking gym. You're going to see yoga pants every single day. Does she really have to be dressed like fucking Harley Quinn for you to say this is a good day? Contrarianism is a lazy man's intellectualism. It's a lazy man's way of becoming intelligent without having to do any of the work. Everybody likes Christmas. I, therefore, shall not like Christmas. I will find some cynical reason about how it's commercialism or Jesus was born in September or, oh, I hate the music. Hey, I don't fucking like Christmas music either. I really don't. I think it's boring. I don't like that it's the same kind of shit. I grew up in Southern California. It doesn't fucking snow there. So all that was just trying to everything for me for Christmas in that regard was trying to create this idyllic Christmas. Oh, there's snow and there's, you know, you have a big roaring fireplace. We didn't have a fireplace in the mobile home, you know? But I still liked Christmas because it got chilly. It got chilly. You'd see your breath. Sometimes there'd be frost on the car when you go to school in the morning. Which is a good reason to never get up in the morning, by the way, but what are we going to do? Contrarianism is this idea that I am smarter because I know something you don't. It's all in position to what other people do. And that's when you have a problem. I think that's the problem when you're intellectual or semi-intellectual or at least borderline smart, is that you can look at the dummies around you or the dummies online or the dummies in your family, and then you go, well, I'm good because I'm smarter than them. and they're all wrong. So I'm just going to veer away no matter what, because they're wrong. I'm right. And it's funny because they just sort of become the inverse of each other, right? Like the guy who grows up with religious parents and then gets a bunch of tattoos and becomes an atheist and is all like, you're believing in a sky fairy. That guy sounds exactly the same as his stupid parents who raised him to hate themselves. Like he's the same. Everything people don't, for some reason, people don't see themselves from their parents. They like to think they're these fucking snowflakes that fell out of the sky. And that's not a snowflake joke. I mean, just here's that you're just individual, unique, and there's nothing else like you. And it's not true. You're an animal. We're animals. And maybe that doesn't mean that there's no God. That doesn't mean that we're not better, because we do have the capability to rise above our animal instincts. But more often than not, we are just animals who are trained, doing the things that we do, only because we were taught that subconsciously. So if your parents are alcoholics, there's like one of two ways that goes. It's either you become an alcoholic, or you're a dude who's like, I never drink. I never started, never wanted to, had no interest. I would come home, dad was plastered, mom would forget to pick me up from school. I never would ever want to do it. There's no value. Everyone who drinks is an idiot. Like there's that guy who I get because, they had some crazy experience with alcohol. Or there's the person who's just exactly the same as their parent, and they're drinking the same. And they're like, oh, I don't see a problem with it because it's normal. It's normal. So we pass these traits along to our kids, to whoever in our life. We pass them along, especially when they're young. But part of the thing that stems from this is just pain. I think it's pain. Contrarianism is often, I think, a result of pain. And I think it's driven by hurt. Maybe you didn't, I think a lot of atheists are lashing out at God. They wouldn't say that, but they're often, it's driven by anger. You can see, like, there's a difference, right? You can tell when people have like confidence in something, and then when people are super insecure about something. And the insecure person, it doesn't mean, here's the thing, they may be insecure for like insecurity is a whole other bag of worms, but you could see a beautiful woman, like just absolutely beautiful, stunning, perfect, gorgeous. There's a term that you only hear on reality dating shows, but I never hear out, you're gorgeous. I never hear it out loud in my conversations, to be fair. Most people would not call me gorgeous, maybe engorged, but gorgeous. You could see a beautiful woman, flawless, perfect woman, and in her head, she's like, I feel fat today, or my nose is whatever, or my ears are whatever, or I don't like my hair today or at all. It's a constant struggle with my hair. Or maybe I grow hair quicker than others, so I have to get waxed more. Whatever. These insecurity it's common. And it could be often for no reason. There are guys that get lots of girls and they go, oh, well, I'm still like not good enough. And you're like, what? I feel like you could chill. Young man, you should chill for a minute. You're fine. So contrarianism, I think, is often a result of insecurity, which is a result of pain. And so today is Christopher Columbus Day. What did Christopher Columbus do? 500 and something years ago, 530 or so, 500 something. I wrote it down and I forgot. Let me pull this up because I can't do math. 529 years ago, Columbus sailed the ocean blue with the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria to go find a pathway. I'm not reading this, by the way. I'm just saying this. To go find a path west to find the nation of India, of which the Western world had been opening up trade, and Columbus went to multiple countries. It's funny. This is an Italian holiday, but it was the Spanish who sent him. Italy would not give him money to go do this excursion. Portugal, none of these countries were willing to give him money except the Spanish. I believe it was Queen Isabella and whoever that fucking guy's name was. And Columbus was determined to find this pathway to India. And so a lot of people go, oh, people thought the world was flat. And well, that's not entirely true. That's a little bit of an overstatement. Maybe the illiterate and people, but they knew there was something beyond. But most of people, this might sound surprising to you. Back in the day, most of the rulers thought the world was there. It was where we are. You know how people get into this whole like, oh, it's the end of the world, or it's the only thing that matters is California. Why would you ever, I'm from California. I left California, and there's two types of people in California. There's the people who are like, yeah, we got to get the fuck out of here, which was me. And then there's people who are like, why would you leave? The weather is great. It's so nice here. And I'm like, there's a homeless man jacking off in my backyard right now. And they're like, oh, he's just experiencing homelessness. Those are the two types of people who pretty much reside in California. And much like that, where you have the mindset of people who think this is all there is. There is nothing greater than where I am. So a lot of people were like, yeah, there's stuff there, but who cares? Right? Well, obviously these people don't work in fucking real estate. So Columbus couldn't get it from his own people. He had to go to the Spanish, and they gave him 3 ships and a crew and some money and said, go find a pathway to India. And he tried. And instead, he found something much better, which was 2 fucking large continents. Now, he did not know he did that. He was of the belief, from my understanding, now again, I did not read, these are all me conglomerating thoughts together, so let's be very fucking clear. If you want to go watch a documentary on this guy. But the reality is that, to my knowledge, that I should put an asterisk next to that. To my knowledge, Columbus, to the day he died, thought he had found India. Hence why we say, or said, Indians instead of Native Americans. And now we're on to indigenous people. So Columbus basically set off a chain of events that led to what we now have as the United States of America, as well as Canada, Mexico, Brazil, Colombia, Guatemala, El Salvador, all the nations that make up the Western Hemisphere. He essentially discovered the Western Hemisphere. Now, obviously there were people here who already were here. And obviously, I love how I say people here. I'm in Arizona. What does that have to do with the fucking Caribbean, you know? What is people here? I've never been to the Caribbean in my life. Christopher Columbus has been to the Caribbean more times than I have in my entire life. And the guy's been dead for 500 years. So what does that say? So people here, he's more here than I ever was. Isn't that crazy? So Columbus, you can argue that's the thing. Oh, well, he did a bunch of bad things to the Native Americans or whatever when he got here. I get that. That's not good. Guess what? history is not like people think history is just things that happened. And it's very rarely things. It's almost always power. It's almost always an exertion of power. And the after effects of that power being used. War is probably the biggest definer in history because it changes borders, it changes cultures, it changes entire if you were to break down humans into subgroups and you were to say, okay, well, you got your, break it down into like Anglo-Saxon and, Cossack or whatever. I don't know what the fuck. Just if you were to break it down into different sub-ethnic groups like that, I mean, if there was a war in Europe that killed hundreds of millions of people or whatever, or the proportionate amount, which we've had those kinds of wars, you might have essentially wiped off an entire subgroup of humans or altered their trajectory so intensely, like, say the Jewish people in the Holocaust. The outcome of that set them down a completely different road than had that never happened. So war is often what defines history. History is also defined by the people who make it. Or I should say it's really written by the victors, but it's also defined by the people who make it. Christopher Columbus, in his mind, wanted to find India for a better trading path. You and I may not be interested in that kind of thing with our lives. I have zero interest in the future of microtransactions. I don't care about the future of trade. And it doesn't mean that I should or shouldn't. It's just that's not the things that I care about. I care more about other things. Christopher Columbus cared about that kind of thing. And maybe it was for selfish motivation, in all likelihood, because almost everything we do is selfish. So I don't know why that's a swear word now. Maybe he just wanted the glory. Maybe he just wanted the money. Maybe he thought whatever. And so he goes to the Caribbean, and to the day he dies, thinks that he discovered India. Instead, he discovers two brand new continents that are ripe for the taking, which is what eventually happens. You have the Spanish sending their galleons. You have the French. You have the English. All the excursions that they had taken into Africa before then are now being rerouted to the New World. And so effectively, he changed history. Now, that's the thing. We can go, well, there were people here, so he didn't discover it. That's true. The Vikings also discovered it centuries earlier. But it didn't set off the chain of events. It did not set off colonization. It did not set off anything. It was like, oh, well, now Leif Erikson has a new fucking house in Greenland or whatever. Like, it was just or Newfoundland, I don't know, one of those really cold parts of the world. It didn't set off anything because to them it was just like, well, this is just another place for us to set up camp and go hunting. So this is the problem that we have. We think this is the narcissism, is that we go, well, the Vikings were here early. They were earlier than Columbus. Sure, they did not set off the triangle trade, which single-handedly shaped the destiny of the world. These are the things that are at stake. So on Columbus Day, this is the thing. I think most holidays are generally stupid. I don't like Labor Day. Who gives a fuck? We have Memorial Day and Veterans Day, one to honor the dead, one to honor the active one. Okay. We need more holiday birthdays. We need birthdays. I'm not a big holiday guy, and it's not a contrarian thing. I don't get it. But the fundamental purpose of most holidays is because it's a cultural continuation from the past. This is what we do here. You know, if you go to a football game at a big powerhouse school, say in the SEC, they have traditions in there that they've been doing for 40 or 50 years. So if your grandpa went to that school, he was doing the same shit you're doing. Why did we go to Christmas Eve every year? Well, my grandma took my mom to her Christmas Eve. And then before that, they took her to Christmas Eve. So it's like there's tradition that connects cultures over time. So that's sort of the value of it. Christopher Columbus Day, for me, growing up, was just a day off in October. Because teachers need periodic 4-day work weeks in order to teach, and then a couple of weeks of Christmas, and then the summer, and also Easter that they don't recognize. They just call it spring break now. This is sort of the problem. This is my problem with the Christopher Columbus bullshit, where people just go, oh, he was a murderer. He was great. Fine. You're right. He's evil. He's the worst. He belongs to rotten hell. Well, then why? You shouldn't get the day off. You don't get Indigenous Peoples Day. You don't get that. You don't get both. You don't get to have your cake and eat it too. The only reason they carve out this day is for public teachers and federal workers and state workers to get one of their fucking collectively bargained days off. But as it turns out, that doesn't jive with the woke left. So now they have to give, oh, well, it's Indigenous people. It's fucking Columbus's birthday. Or whatever. Maybe this was, I don't fucking know. I don't care. Because it was a dumb thing to begin with. It's just a day off for public school teachers, basically. This was never some deep. This is the problem, is they make it, like they always make it where, oh, you celebrate a murderer. And it's like, no, all they fucking did was tell us that he sailed the Nina and the Pinta and the Santa Maria to the New World. That's it. It is not, oh my God, he's such a hero. He's the best. He's the greatest. And everyone who he killed or whatever, they had it coming. That's the funny thing. I don't even know if he had anybody killed. Like, it's often like, oh, the problem with the Columbus thing is not even the specifics of what he did or didn't do. It's that he caused the triangle trade, that he caused the white people to arrive in North America. He caused it. So that's why he's guilty. Yeah. Got it. These are the contrarianism delusions that we have to go through. So they will take Indigenous Peoples Day off because they want the day off. That's all they care about. They care about their government holiday. Okay, so it officially celebrates the anniversary of his arrival in the Americas. So again, if this is the worst day in history for the indigenous people, why celebrate on the day he shows up? Because you want the fucking day off. That's it. You would have said, oh no, Columbus is evil. We need to get rid of the day. We can't celebrate on this day. Maybe we go talk about Indigenous People Day on another day we go celebrate. No. No. They have the bird in the hand. So they're, well, let's call it Indigenous Peoples Day and then we'll be good. Oh, keep our holiday. Great. It's pathetic. This is what it's all about. It's never about what it's about. You guys, this is a brief, here's another example of things not being what they're about when they say they're about. So Eric Clapton has been leading sort of an anti-forced vaccination, I guess anti-vaccine mandates for musicians and concert halls and performance venues. which good for him. Absolutely. I wish that anybody close to my age had the balls that he has. They do not. I fully expect Machine Gun Kelly to go get his little shot as soon as he can. Like that. These artists are pussies. And Eric Clapton has decided that's not the case. So he doesn't believe that you should be forced to be vaccinated to go see a show. I think that's fair. Eric Clapton came out with that, and people immediately start talking about, oh, he said this really fucked up racist shit in the 70s, 50 years ago. And Rolling Stone, which again, one of these, they used to have some testicular fortitude, and now they're just completely pussed out. Like they've just gone completely woke. They don't I don't even think they fucking listen to music. Like I think they just are on Twitter and talking about whatever's on Twitter. And they're mad because how dare this guy fight for this? So he said racist thing in the 70s. They don't care about racism. They care about having a thing to bludgeon you with. That's all they care about. They do not care about black people, Mexicans, Asians, gay people, lesbians. They don't care. Trans people, they don't care about any of them. Do you want proof? Every time a black person says, hey man, I don't feel comfortable about getting the vaccine, we're like, what do you hate science, bro? Blah, blah, blah. Really? You think a black person in America should just be rushing out to get a vaccine? That the way to appeal to that person is being like, well, the FDA just approved it. Oh, really? Because if you cared about racism or you cared about these things, these are not the things you would say, hey, listen, I understand your hesitation. I think there's, a lot of reason to not want to do this, but That's how you convince people. But they're not interested in convincing. They're not interested in race. They're only interested in beating you over the head with this thing. They don't care about what Columbus did. They cared about the optics. They don't care about any of that. All they care about is keeping that holiday and having a moral justification for it. So then they'll go and talk shit on him on Twitter. They'll go on and they'll have all their thoughts about him, or they'll have all their thoughts about Eric Clapton. Oh, he said this and oh, he did that. Like they'll have all their thoughts, but they're fine with the fact that, Eric Clapton inspired an entire generation of musicians, guitarists, and probably forged into the future all this great music that we have. He's a piece of that. Whatever you think about Eric Clapton's music, and I like Eric Clapton. I don't love Eric Clapton as a musician, but you have to respect him as a musician if you claim to give a shit about music at all. Rolling Stone. So these are not things they care about. These are things they care about to use as a weapon in order to achieve political power. That's it. They don't care. If that's the thing, if Eric Clapton came out and said, oh, I'm 100% pro-vaccine, everyone should get the shot. If they don't, they're a brain dead moron. They would have been like, oh yeah, awesome, great, cool. Here's a fucking song with you and Bono or whatever. They would have loved it. But instead, he says, no. And they're going, oh, remember the thing you said in the 70s? You remember the thing you said in the 70s? We bring it up every time you do something we don't like. Remember that thing that you did that we don't like? Oh, well, we care. We care more about it. We care more about it. You don't care. These people are pathetic. These people are fucking losers. Christopher Columbus is a complicated historical figure. Guess what? Everyone is fucking complicated. I don't care if you have all the right opinions today. I don't care. if you've accepted the corporate media's message. Here's the thing. If you are a person who just regurgitates what the news tells you, if you're just a person who is, because here's the thing, I feel like you have to, either you're really fucking stupid or you have to be aware of this, because it's a conscientious choice on your part to post the things you post. If you're a person who's out there last summer, got the fucking BLM. Yeah, I'm going to black out my fucking Instagram. We're all going to be standing with the people and George Floyd and blah, blah, blah. You're one of those guys. Okay. Then on to the next thing. The cops fucking start arresting people being at the beach. Well, man, the law says don't be on the beach. There's a fucking virus. Get inside. What? What are we like? What? That's who that person is. They're on to the next thing. They're the person that goes, oh, I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan. Yeah, I love Patrick Mahomes. Oh, yeah, they're the best team in the NFL. Then after last night, they go, Josh Allen's really good in the Bills. I think I like these Bills. They'll be on to the next team and the next team and the next team. And this is what they do. And they go, well, I get to just do this because it's all how I feel. And I don't have to care about what that does to you. And I don't have to care what that does to society. And I don't have to care what that does to my kids or to my spouse. I don't care about any of it. All I care about is how I feel. And I get to jump from feeling to feeling. And you guys all have to keep up. I think Columbus was complicated human. And if you follow, here's the thing, everybody's complicated. If you have any original thoughts, you are complicated. But if you're one of these people who follows narrative to narrative, blue pill to blue pill, you also have problematic views. Last year, the narrative was, I'm not going to trust the Trump vaccine. That's what Kamala Harris said. Vice President Kamala Harris said while she was running for office. She was just running. You can't blame her. She has to tell the voters what they want to hear. Oh, that's interesting. Like, that's what she was telling people. So if you're one of these people who goes, well, Kamala, I'm not trusting the Trump vaccine, and then a year later, if you don't get the vaccine, you're a murderer, and you're the dumbest person, and you're a racist, and you're backwards, and your family should be taken away from you, and you should have to quit your job. You should never have to work again. Like, this is where we're at. So yes, happy Columbus Day. Why? Because fuck it. Who cares? Life is good. And this is the other thing. First, we have this whole attitude of like, this is a product of, I think, a lot of very lazy Westerns. Like, I think people who Dances with Wolves is a great example of this. We have this thought that the Native Americans just sprung up from the dirt. Like, there was nothing. It was just, they were here. They were just here. And we just strolled on in and they were just here. There was a time where they were not there. And then they came and then they took it. And they often killed each other over it. And then we, LOL, we, 530 years ago when none of us were here, we, a Spanish and an Italian funded by the Kingdom of Spain. Spain's not a kingdom anymore. And I'm not Italian. But we came over here and they were just here. Come on. That's obviously not the case. There are tribes amongst tribes. That you can break. This is the beauty of the American system, is that It makes a conscientious effort to blow past this identity bullshit and breaking us down to the ultimate level of the individual. Because you can break down, people go, oh, there's the individual, and then the next unit's the family, and then the next one's the community, and then the next one's the city, and then the next one's the state, and then the next one is the country. And it's actually like 20 million more than those. Because you have sub-communities and you have sub on sub. It's endless. You can break people down into any number of boxes that you want to put them in. So we did not come to sit here and go, well, it was just all Native Americans and the rest were us, the whites. Christopher Columbus was an Italian man who had to get money from the Spanish Empire to do his mission, which opened up the entirety of Europe. So this we and they and us, it's such a generalization of history. There are clear things that you can point to in history. People always talk about Hitler as an example. You can look at a guy like Hitler and go, he directly ordered the mass extinction and extermination, I should say, of the Jewish people as well as the Roma and other quote-unquote undesirables. There's a direct line there. Everything else is almost just cause and effect. Even some of the worst atrocities, people will dismiss. Well, here's the thing. They'll talk about like atrocities and then we bring up the communists and they'll go, well, like that was just sort of a unintentional side effect of whatever. And it's like, what? Like that's fine. But Christopher Columbus owns the genocide of the Native Americans who just sprung up from the dirt. And we're just sitting around, hanging out on the prairies. They weren't doing anything. And then Christopher Columbus came in and just, oh! Sorry, my pipes just made a strange noise. That's not a double entendre. My actual pipes. This is the beauty of living in an apartment, is you hear other people's plumbing groan. Sort of a strange thing. Let me just wrap this up. Let me wrap up Columbus Day. I've gone on for 40 minutes on this guy, so let me just wrap this up with a nice little bow. You can hate him, you can love him, you can have whatever you think about a guy like Christopher Columbus. All I ask is that people stop thinking like 2-year-olds. Christopher Columbus is bad. Oh, he's so good. He's so perfect. This is like a 2-year-old's thinking, where they just go good guy, bad guy. Oh, no. Life is complicated. If you are a blue-pilled corporate hack who follows every stupid line of thinking that the media gives you and you believe it, then a year ago you were anti-vax. Like this is how life works. We all have dumb thoughts. We all have problematic views. Everybody's a little racist. They're lying to you if they say I don't have a racist bone in my body. Yeah, okay. Really? And I'm not saying you need to be a fucking Klansman, but we all have thoughts. You know, I like smoke. Here's a racist thought. That's a positive racist thought. I like smoke shops run by Arabs. Persians, sorry. I know my Middle Eastern listeners will be greatly offended by that confusion. I like smoke shops run by Persians. And here's the thing. I don't know if they're Persian or Arab. I don't fucking care. But when it has the hookah and the guys, I don't know what the fuck they're saying, that's when you know it's a good spot. It's okay to have those thoughts. So acknowledge that we're all a little fucked in the head. We're all a little crazy. And some of us are more crazy than others. And if you're listening to this 45 minutes in, you might be crazier than the average person, and that's fine. The other thing I really don't like about it is how they go, oh, here's what they don't teach you in school. These guys, it's the contrarianism hyped up. Here's what they don't teach you in school. When I was in school, I never heard anything bad about Christopher Columbus, and now I know the truth, and the truth is he's the worst. These are almost always said by morons who were not paying attention in school. Every time I hear somebody go, I didn't learn that in school, I'm like, you weren't paying attention. You know how I know? Because I was one of 3 people paying attention in history class. And you were fucking falling asleep into your notebook. And I'm not saying that makes me a better person. What does make me a better person is that I don't announce things like that. They didn't teach us this in school. I saw this meme about Columbus. This is what made me mad. This is what started this whole rant about Columbus. I was on Instagram today and some guy put a whole thing about about how what the American textbooks teach you about Christopher Columbus. Maybe this is the fact that I was in the California public schools, so maybe I was blessed with this knowledge. But the narrative on Christopher, I don't know anybody who celebrates Christopher Columbus. And when I was in school, it was literally the fucking lyric of him sailing the ocean blue with the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa. It was not a fucking deep dive on this guy's life. It was just a thing he did. Just like Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. Actually, he stole the... You're not smart. And you weren't paying attention as your teacher riddled out facts about the importance of it and then moved on to the next thing to get you ready for your standardized test. When did you ever have some deep fucking nuanced discussion in high school about any of this? And if you did, you probably weren't paying attention. You were looking at the girl in front of you. Or you were thinking about finding weed. Or you were thinking about football practice. These were all the things that distracted me. And I paid attention. Mostly. But that's the thing. It's like when someone comes at me with math, and if I were to be like, oh, no one ever taught me that. It's like, well, they probably did. You were just too stupid to fucking figure it out. Effin. 7th Evan. What are there, fucking 6 other people named Evan? You loser.
Fucking thing sucks.
Thank you, Bill. You can always count on Bill to fill the dead air. I think school is generally a waste of time. So that's my thought. You guys are mad about what they didn't teach you in public school or private, whatever. You were fucking in 8th grade and you didn't know how to consume that information. You weren't interested in the information. You probably had a shitty person teaching you the information. There's no retention of information. Now you come along and you're like, oh, I should start thinking about the things that they were teaching me. And then you're like, I wasn't taught that. To me, you're announcing that you're a dummy. And listen, now if you say, hey, the U.S. textbooks didn't teach me that the CIA orchestrated the assassination of JFK, I believe you. I would believe you. That doesn't seem like something a teacher would bring up. But white people being the devil has been permeated all throughout public schools in America for decades. So that's just a fact. I've been aware of it since elementary school. I was aware of it, of the villainization of the white man. Later, I'll be discussing my strong opinions on the other racial problems. Actually, white people are super discriminated against. On to Ben Shapiro. Benny Hanna Shapiro. Benjamin Shapiro. What is Ben's full name? I'm just curious. I like Ben, but I am curious. What is your full name, Ben? I'm gonna Google this right now. I really just want to know your middle name more than anything. Benjamin Aaron Shapiro. Wow, that is a Jewish name. And let me tell you, that's not bad. That's a statement of fact. Benjamin, the tribe of Benjamin, one of the 12 tribes, he was the youngest of whatever the fuck his name was. Not Jacob, not Isaac. Was it Jacob? Was it Isaac? Father Abraham had many sons had father. It was probably Jacob, yeah, because Abraham had, I think they sing that ironically. So Benjamin was the youngest son he was one of the 12 tribes of Israel. Aaron was the best friend of Moses, I believe. So yeah, that's a very Jewish, literally, really Hebrew is probably the better term. Hebrew, that's a true Hebrew name. Good for you, Ben. Ben had a great little back and forth. He had a debate with Anna Kasparian. I don't know how to fuck to say her name. I don't watch the Young Turks, but she's at the Young Turks, and they're I don't know, maybe they're controlled opposition. I don't really know what they are, but the Young Turks is one of those shows where it's sort of like the Daily Wire on the inverse. It's a progressive network. They're very they're playing to that crowd. And so she went into debate with Ben Shapiro. Now, Anna Kasparian, I'll give her this. She's very hot, and that's important for me. That's a very important thing when I evaluate my political commentators, is how attractive they are. It's why I don't watch Sean Hannity anymore. He's gone to shit. He's kind of gone to shit, and he doesn't take care of himself. But Anna had a debate with Ben. It was like the Pennsylvania Chamber of Commerce. There you go. That's a deep cut. And, it's interesting because it was civil, and Ben has made, you can tell, and I mean, I think he's talked about this too, but he's made like a conscientious effort not to be like owning the libs, which is fair. I think if you're going to have a dialogue, you can't be like, I'm going to punk your bitch ass, which he kind of did with Piers Morgan and all that. But Piers had it coming, and he still deserves it. He deserves that for the rest of his days. Should be reminded of that he stands in the grave of children. But Ben and Anna had a back and forth, and just a few things, a few clips that I thought were interesting, and I would like to discuss here. And the first one here is that Anna Kasparian. Right. Whoop, sorry, gang. Anna Kasparian. She gives this thing. She has this statement in here, and that drives me up a fucking wall. I'm gonna play it for you.
Blame for.
I think that both sides certainly engage in
This is a
you gotta be fucking kidding me.
Jack and Barbara, professional.
You leave it on pause and they're just like, commercial. Hold on. Fuck you. How dare you, people? I am trying to run a professional show here.
Culture wars, and it's frustrating to see it. Full disclosure, I myself have.
So the question was about how the culture war and if it's real or not, and what it's doing to America. I think that was sort of the general lead in for this.
Engaged in it, and I think instead of being oblivious or delusional about it, it's important to acknowledge when you've made the mistakes, right? And so the demonizing doesn't help. At the end of the day, we have to realize that we're all Americans. We all want the same thing. Fundamentally, we are the same. We might have different solutions, different ideas. Demonizing the other side doesn't help to accomplish any solutions. Again, we're seeing that play out in real time as we speak.
The zeroing in on there is the idea that we're all Americans, we're all the same, and we all fundamentally want the same thing. That is bullshit. You hear this in politics a lot. People running for office will often talk about this like if they're going, well, you know, the guy, even though we disagree, we like each other. Oh yeah. No, they don't. No, they do not. And if they do, maybe that's kind of a problem, because at least one of them is a scumbag. You know, like at least one of the people, statistically speaking, in politics, at least one of the people running for that position is a total scumbag, if not both. So if they like each other, it's kind of like, well, I don't know if that's actually a good thing. Like, you maybe should hate that person to your very fiber of your very core. But it's this idea, it's this neoliberal thing you hear all the time about how we're all want the same thing. Here, let me just give you just one example, and you can do it with every fucking issue, but let me give you just one example I think clearly debunks this logic. Climate change, global warming, global cooling, right? You have a percentage of the American people who think that global warming is an existential crisis, that we have only so many years before the effects are reversible. It will eventually lead to our extinction if we don't do anything, and we're all going to die. And then you get another percentage of Americans who go, yeah, don't care. Don't care. Or don't buy it. Don't believe it. Whatever. On to the next thing. Now, I'm in that camp in general. It's not because of some deep research I've done on this subject. There's a lot of corruption in climate science. There's a lot. It's like kind of like the AIDS pandemic. Like, oh, hey, this person has AIDS and you'll give us more funding. There's a lot of like, we'll give you funding to find examples of climate change. You know, there's motivating factors for it. So I generally don't trust that. I don't trust anybody that says the only, you know, we have a problem and the only way to fix it is my solution. It's always a little bit of like, well, how convenient is that? You know, and as it turns out, this person also, like, they hate trucks. You know, they hate them. It's not just that, oh, a truck just seems impractical and it could be a problem with the fuel efficiency. I like how I'm talking like Obama now. The fact of the matter is that water is very tasty if you put flavoring in it. Barack, I need to get a drop of Barack.
Fucking thing sucks.
Thank you, Bill. Bill O'Reilly, legendary broadcaster. Bill did nothing wrong, as far as I know. But here's the thing. This nonsense that we all want the same thing. If I believe that global warming is not a problem, and you believe not only is it a problem, it's a threat that can exterminate us, we are not on the same page. We are nowhere near. We do not have different solutions for the same problem, because if I don't even acknowledge the problem, then we're not anywhere close. And to sit there and say, like, to me, when they go, we all want the same thing. Who's we? Do I have the same motivations as Bill Gates? Do I have the same as Donald Trump? I would, and I like Trump. I would suggest that Donald Trump has more in common with Bill Gates than I have in common with Donald Trump. And I like the guy. And I don't care for Bill Gates. We do not have the same motivations. Jack from Twitter does not have the same motivations as Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook. They do not all want the same thing. There are people in this country who want universal health care coverage for everybody, no matter the cost. All this. We want it all socialized, everything. And then you get people who want to just completely get rid of the entire government healthcare system. They do not have the same motivations. Now, I'm not going to ascribe motivation, but I know that they are not motivated by the same things, because they do not see the same problem. Because in the one hand, you'd have somebody say, let me just say, this is the best case read. This is without assigning any ulterior motivations. If you're interested in if you believe in having universal healthcare coverage for everybody, let's say you're driven by, you see inequality between healthcare providing you maybe you've experienced crazy high expensive healthcare bills. Maybe the empathy is what's driving you. Maybe you just see it as a broken system that needs to be reformed, whatever. And then on the other side, they go, well, we're looking at market reasons. We're looking at we don't like the thought of, we don't believe the government can effectively dish out healthcare. We think that it drives up the price of healthcare to have these government interferences. Those are different motivations. And they're going to have different reasons. And it doesn't make one right or wrong, although I think it can. If you examine them further, you can often see who's right and who's wrong. But what it does is it allows us to see that there are two sets of priorities here. So one is generally focused on cost, and the other is generally focused on, I guess, utopia. I don't know what the right way to say it. They generally they want things to be better. Well, no, because that's what I would say that's what the libertarian argument would be. They do want things to be better. They want the cost to be lower. So I guess it's sort of like an ideal, I guess. They look at it more like ideally everybody should be covered all the time, no matter what. So I think that's sort of the logic, but that's the thing. Those people are driven by different motivations. They have different reasons. Best case scenario, they have different reasons. So worst case scenario, they have way crazier different motivations about seizing power or making people suffer or whatever your thing would be. So we do not all want the same thing. Anytime someone tells you that, they're lying or they've checked out and they're trying to come up with the next thing, and that's a thing that they've heard that sounds right. Now, on to critical race theory, which was a bit of a deviation I'm not really in a topic for them, and I think it kind of gets settled out of this. It's interesting because this is another thing Anna says that's very. It's a tactic you get when you get in arguments with people, which is, that thing you're worried about doesn't matter, or I should say. If I tell you, hey, we have there's suicides in the military are climbing. We have a lot of suicides in the military. And I don't know if that is generally true. I don't know if that's currently true, but let's say we have a lot of suicides in the military. And you go, well, I doubt it. I don't believe it. But even if it were, they signed up for it. It's like, I'm raising a concern to you, and your thought is, I'm going to pretend your concern isn't real. And even if it were real, even if I were to grant you that it were real, I'm going to say it's not really a problem. So Anna does that here with critical race theory. Listen.
Really buying that they're learning about critical race theory or even a boiled down. I'm sure.
Hey, guys.
Thank you. Hold on. Sorry. We got another fucking commercial here because God forbid you leave a video on pause.
Toby Mathis here with Anderson.
Hey, I thought I muted you. Try it again. There we go. Oh, thank God. Sorry, Toby. We're going to start that over.
The arbiter of what gets taught in any particular public school. I'm not really buying that they're learning about critical race theory or even a boiled down. I'm positive that elementary schools are not learning about systemic racism, and even if they are, even if it's a boiled down version of that, learning about systemic racism is important.
It's important.
I think that's something that's an issue in this country.
This is why this is kind of what makes me lean into anarchism. Because this is a person that should have no say over your life. Here's this problem you have, and I don't think it's a problem, but even if it were a problem, it's actually not a problem, it's good. That's a dishonest tactic. That's kind of like, I can't defend this on its values. It's not happening, but even if it were, so it's a hoax, but even if it were, who cares? Just tell me it's not real, or tell me this is why it's good. Don't tell me it's not real, but here's why it's good. This Columbus shit is great because I think it's a great way. There's there's people who have like no idea or pretend to have no idea. I never heard this in school. And then you get the people who go, yeah, I have heard about it, but it's more to the story. Like, critical race theory has been in schools for a long time. In elementary school and certainly by middle school, the logic, and even in my private Christian high school, there are plenty of teachers who made it a point that white men specifically, but white people, brutalized and colonized and murdered and destroyed, and all the worst evils of the world stem from them arriving on these shores. My 7th grade history teacher made it a point that because this was world history in California, you go over world history, which means you talk about all the religions. And so this guy was a lapsed, or I guess ex-Catholic, super mad. I bet the guy whacked off to Jon Stewart every night. And one of those fucking weirdos that teaches kids, doesn't have any kids, has a lot of dogs, and talks about dogs like they're kids. That's always a little sociopathic for me. And he was obsessed with Japan. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, probably has a foot fetish. This guy was telling us about how the Islam, this was in the height of the Iraq war, right? And so he was trying to explain how, like, there was this fantasy ongoing on the left that, like, the Iraq war was sort of like the Crusades part 2. And this guy was definitely subject to that. It was sort of like, oh, it's a return to Christendom from the white people. Typical. Oh, so typical. And he was sort of like, he would have these whole things about how, like, well, the Catholics, they were so corrupt and they were murderers, and the people were impoverished and there was no science, no art, like there was all these, it was just so fucking terrible there. And then meanwhile, the superior Arabs who knew the science and the math and the algebra, they had algebra before us. My God, like they do this weird comparison that they would never, ever, ever, ever do for other races. But with this, we're the white people are the devils, so let's talk about how shitty white people are. Like, that has been going on my entire life. My entire educational life, that was a theme. Maybe they didn't lay it on us in kindergarten, but pretty much the moment we started talking fairly realistically about things in history, it has been more or less, Thomas Jefferson owned slaves. Like, it's been that. That has been baked in. And so when you have critical race theory that more or less teaches people, it's a Marxist approach to racism. There's oppressor and oppressed. And so when I went to Ole Miss, they made us fill out in one of my classes, I had to fill out a privilege list. And then we had to talk about our results. And my teacher was not happy when I said, this is not a summary of me. So I grew up, if you've ever had a blue collar job in a warehouse, then you check. What? These are written by people who have never had a job in a warehouse, by the way. If you've ever worked in a warehouse, like, warehouses are not, it's blue collar, but it's not like, oh, you have to be poor and destitute to come work here. You could go work, you could get like 20, 25 at a fucking warehouse if you do it right. 25 an hour, I should say, not 25 a year. I'm saying you can get paid. You can get paid at these places. So to be like, oh, well, you worked at a warehouse therefore, or you've been in a union. Fucking Tom Cruise is in a union. What is it? You're in a union, thus you have less privilege. Not if your parents are in a teacher's union, because they get fucking 5 months off a year and a sweet pension. So this is the kind of shit that they come up with. And that was at the college level, and throughout high school and middle school It was all about every time history. It was social studies. They called it social. They didn't call it history class. They called it social studies. What does that mean? It means we're not going to talk about history. It means we're going to talk about society. Well, fuck off. One and two, society is boring. It's interesting, but it's mundane. History is interesting. But they didn't want to talk. They didn't want to talk about I had a college. It was American history, post 1875, I believe. So it starts at basically Jim Crow era on, and we go through World War I, World War II, and Vietnam, and we gloss over the war in all cases. And the professor openly said we were going to do this. By the way, he started it. We're going to focus on what was happening on the home front. You want to know what was happening on the home front during World War II in America? All the men were being shipped overseas. Well, the Jim Crow South, the laws were... Those are all minor details when you're talking about American history from 1941 to 1944. Sorry. That is a low priority for me because the vast majority of America was not shaped by Jim Crow laws in the South. They were shaped by going overseas, and if they survived, coming home and getting a sweet VA loan to buy a home and get their college paid for. That's much more noteworthy to me than just, there were these bad laws these racist laws being enacted in the post-slavery South. That's a part of history. It's not all of history. Critical race theory makes all about race. They centralize race. They centralize economics. It's all about money, race, and power for them. And the world is more than that. And if it isn't to you, then you are a terrible person. You're a really shitty person. Because you're just constantly thinking about how to control things. You are constantly thinking about exerting power. If that's how you feel, if you're one of these people who thinks that the entirety of man's existence can be summarized by power, come on. History is power being exerted, but it's not on the micro level, not all about that. But they make it all about that. Is there any wonder why America is the most racially divided it's been since the civil rights era? Like, seriously. That's the problem with this logic. If it's being taught, so what? It's not, but so what? I care because this is what you're putting into kids' heads. You're continuing the problem of racism because you've sectioned everybody off based on... By the way, these are kids. These are children. None of them have ever voted for anything. They have no responsibility for how society is. And we're still making them answer for the sins of some dead fucking people who haven't been here in hundreds of years. So, yeah. Excuse me, Anna. I do care. Here's the next clip.
Well, Anna, you shared some concern.
This is, by the way, this is why I finally figured out why it is that Gavin Newsom won because I thought it was going to be close. There's some poll that came out that said how, he was in trouble. And when you saw the media blitz that they made and they dragged Obama out, they dragged Bernie Sanders out, they dragged Joe Biden, they dragged all these losers out to go promote to promote Gavin Newsom and to vote no on the recall. And so I thought, hey, yeah, I thought he might win, but I also was thinking he might be in trouble too. And then with the final vote totals, it looks like it was kind of much ado about nothing. So this is the logic. So I'd like to thank Anna because I think she gave the explanation for why he won. I don't think she meant to, but I think this is why every Democrat voted for that blood-sucking piece of shit.
Concerns too, in California, like Pennsylvania, lost enough.
Let's go help people customize.
Once again, commercial. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk over. Fuck you, Liberty Mutual. Fuck you. Thank you. Oh, no, we're going to get one more. I'm going to talk over it. Talk and skip.
Another congressional seat. So their population is not growing, certainly not at the same rate as Texas, Florida, et cetera. So share some of your concerns because you talked a little bit about it before.
Sure. So California is poorly governed right now.
By the way, that should be it. When you have a recall, that should be enough of a reason. If things are going badly, you can just go, yeah, it doesn't matter. We just get rid of this guy. That should be enough. That should be enough of a reason to do that. But we shall hear her out and she shall explain. After she's acknowledged that it is being poorly governed.
I was pretty blunt and transparent about the fact that I signed the petition to recall Gavin Newsom. So
I signed it too. We were on exactly the same page before I left.
Right. Now, unfortunately, the individuals running against him were worse than he was or is. And so, unfortunately, when the ballot showed up to in my mailbox, I ended up voting against the recall. But I was hoping that there would be a better candidate to challenge him. I didn't like any of the candidates.
So I think that's why Gavin Newsom won re-election or survived his recall, I should say, because there was this whole conversation about like, why aren't the Democrats running a good candidate in case he does get recalled? And it was so they could scare the shit out of their voters and say Gavin or else. And the Democrats all fell in line. Oh, I can't get rid of Gavin because the other guys are worse. How the fuck is Larry Elder worse? You have 60,000 homeless people on the streets of Los Angeles. Los Angeles. One city. 60,000 people living on the streets, experiencing homelessness. I don't like it. You could have a fucking potato as the governor and it will be better than Gavin Newsom. But this is how they were able to, this is the fight. The Young Turks is like they claim to be all fucking outside the system. They claim to be all, they claim like, they act like they're all a bunch of fucking Bernie bro types. And then when push comes to shove, oh, Gavin Newsom. Oh, Larry Elder's worth. Oh, really? How about those lightweight Republicans that were running? There was like 7 of them. You couldn't have gone with one of those losers. You couldn't have voted for some. You were too mad. Larry Elder is a libertarian. He's not some, Republican fucking like. It's not putting in Mitt Romney. But this is the problem: is that when you tell me Mitt Romney's Hitler, I shall not believe you when you tell me Donald Trump is Hitler. This is the problem we have. You want to tell me that everybody on that ballot was worse than Gavin Newsom? Really? Really? No. She cannot articulate why Larry Elder was worse. Do you think Larry Elder, I'm just like, what is this world? No Republican state has 60,000 homeless people living on the streets of their major cities. None of them. California does. And this is a problem. By the way, this is the problem that came before Gavin. And everyone thought he was going to fucking deal with it. And he has not dealt with it. Instead, he's figuring out vaccine mandates and fucking the play aisle at a toy store, whether there should be a gender neutral section. Like this is what he's focused on. So, no, Anna, you're fucking wrong. And you should have to fucking answer for that. You got fucking millions of listeners, and you get, oh, Gavin's better than the other. No, he's not. He destroyed the state economy and ignored his own lockdown rules. He was an absolute fucking hypocrite from beginning to end of the COVID crisis. He was one of the worst. The only reason he's not the worst is because Andrew Cuomo murdered thousands of elderly people. That's the only reason Gavin Newsom isn't the worst, because of Andrew Cuomo's just existence. California has some of the lowest rated schools. We're like 48th in schools, in education. What? This is the 6th largest fucking economy in the world. How do you fuck that up? Gavin does. Gavin finds a way, and all of his little retard followers who voted for him followed suit, and they would fall him right off a cliff and right into a fucking oven if they could, because they're stupid. You cannot tell me that anyone is worse than Gavin Newsom. I would have to see it to believe it. And I think that it was worth a shot if you lived in California to say, you know what? We can't do much worse. That's what Trump said to the black community. How's it working out for you? How's this? You're telling me about how terrible it is, right? Yeah, California is being badly governed. No shit. This is not new. That state has been poorly governed my entire life. That includes Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm not a fucking Republican here. The solution was to get rid of the cancer. Instead, you have enabled your party that you guys always claim doesn't represent you. This is the thing. They'll go and say, oh, they always lose on the big issues. They always cave to Mitch McConnell. They always Okay, hold them fucking accountable. Get him the fuck out of office. You care? You claim you care. You claim you want a better party. You claim you want your party to represent you. They always act like they're the ones that are being the victim. They're victimized Yeah, you got Apple on your side. Yeah, you got Amazon on your side. Yeah, you got every major media outlet. Yeah, you got every major fucking institution. Yeah, you got the CIA, the FBI on your side. Yeah, you got Wall Street on your side. But Gavin, we just would like it if you'd represent us a little bit better. Oh, well, Larry Elder's coming. Better get back to our team. Get her better go back on our team. Got to be safe because those evil Republicans. This is the logic of a very stupid person. These people should not have any say over your life. So thank you, Anna, for explaining very clearly why it is that you reelected the blood-sucking, worthless fucking governor, one of the most morally bankrupt people in politics right now. Thank you for that. Good job. Yeah. Good luck. I've been going for an hour 23 here, guys. Jesus. I didn't think I'd have so many thoughts about Christopher Columbus. Well, let me just close here with a quick little conversation. If you follow the NFL at all, there's been this was a bad week for coaches. You had Urban Meyer, who did not fly back home with his team after a loss, and stayed back in Ohio and was at his restaurant. And then there's a video of him playing grab ass with some chick who's grinding on him. And then he kind of lied about, or he canceled the meeting with his team and didn't really own it, and it was just awkward or whatever. And they're making it all this big story about how they're imploding. And then on the other side, you have John Gruden of the Raiders. The NFL's found these emails from 2011 where he said some insensitive thing about some guy's lips because African Americans have lips. Oh, don't say that. Don't say that. We'll call it a trope. I love this double talk that people do. This is the double talk where you can't, okay, well, he said this thing about an African American man's lips, and you know what that means? No, I don't know what that means. What does that mean? I don't want to explain it to you. I'm just going to call it a racial trope. Because if I explain it to you, that you have to go, well, yeah, I do. A lot of African Americans do have larger lips than the average white person, I suppose. Well, you can't say that. So we'll just call it a racial trope, and we'll say it's completely wrong, and it's completely immoral and completely racist. John Gruden was not an employee of the league when he sent that email about this guy. Second off, John Gruden is a coach who's been around the NFL for 30, maybe 40 years. As long as I've paid attention, this guy's nickname is Chucky. His name is John. His nickname is Chucky. When people would go to his games all the way back in the days when he was coaching for the Raiders the first time in the 90s and the Buccaneers through the 2000s, people would bring Chucky dolls to the game. Is it because his name is Charles? No, his name is John. They bring the doll because he looks like Chucky the doll. And it's a little bit of a leap, I would say. I think it's a little bit of a creative leap. But, you know, he's kind of a redhead. He's kind of talks a little crazy. He's got a weird, like, intensity to him. And so they call him Chucky. This is affectionately. This is what they call this. They've called this man because of his physical appearances. So Gruden talking about how this guy had, big lips or ugly lips or some shit like that. And, it's a racial trope. I think there's a difference between somebody who looks at a black person and if they were to start hounding them, your lips are so big. I think there's a little bit different than I'm shit talking on a guy I don't like. This is what is it bad because he brought up that it was physical, or is it bad because it was racist? Because you gotta pick one here. Because the rules is that we're allowed to call him Chucky and bring Chucky dolls to the game based on his physical appearance, including his racial makeup. But if he has some, talking shit on some guy in an email 10 years ago and brings up his lips and we go, he's African American, you can't say that? It's just this is the double standard. These are the constant double standards that drive me up a wall. Because it should either be all okay or none okay. None of it's okay. And they're making it about race. This is a guy who has spent 30 years or 40 years of his life working with mostly African Americans. And you can say a lot of things about John Gruden. I don't think you can call him a racist. So Tony Dungy, to his credit, said that, it was inappropriate, but he knows John. He thinks John's a good guy. Doesn't think he's racist. We need to move on. I think Tony Dungy was right. But I'm also I'm just done with this. I'm done with you can't say this because of whatever racial thing that other people have attached to it. We're going to ascribe it. Well, why can't you mention his lips? Well, because quiet, stop asking questions. Because they don't want to say it. It's like white people who talk about the N-word but don't say the N-word. They're like, how the N-word is so devastating it's so bad. It's so bad. And it's like, you have a lot of fucking thoughts about this, even though you're on the right side, quote unquote, but you seem to have a lot of fucking thoughts about this. For a guy who claims that we have no thoughts on it, you have a lot of thoughts on it. And Urban Meyer's situation's a little bit, I think Urban Meyer's situation's worse, if only because, he the fallout as a result, not being quite forward with his team about it. But even Urban, we make it, this is the problem. So it's like, and I'm noticing a thread on this, and I'll bring this up on my on the sports podcast with Will and Trevor, but we have this whole logic that if like there's in the NFL, there's like this logic that like, guys that succeed in the college level, like coaches, they still can't do the NFL. I think that gets baked into a lot of with Urban Meyer and other college guys. We saw it with Chip Kelly, Greg Schiano. Oh, you had success there? Well, good luck up here where the big boys play. And it's weird because I expect that from like coaches, other coaches. I understand if Bill Belichick was like, yeah, Urban, good luck up here. Ha ha ha. I'd understand if Bill Belichick got that. I don't get why guys on ESPN do that. I don't get why that's like we're part of this because we cover the league. And it's like, no, bitch. You're a 45-year-old balding white man who's never had an athletic achievement in his life. All you do is talk about sports. You're not part of this. You're a talker. I'm a talker. It's fine. It's fine to be a talker. Just that whole attitude. So I think that happened with Urban Meyer. He's had a few dust ups with the media over the years. So I think they don't like him for that. They're mad at him because he had an example of nepotism where he hired his mentor's grandson, and the guy had some domestic violence shit, and he hired him anyways. And he lied about it to the media. So they take that personally because you have to tell the truth 100% all the time, always, right? Media, that would be that's the idea, right? Anywho, so it's funny because Urban Meyer, he had a lot of success at all the colleges he's coached at, and he might be an odd guy, might be a rough guy, might be a piece of shit. I don't know. I'm not an Ohio State guy. I'm not a Florida guy. I don't care about any of those things. What I do know is that these guys have hated him since he came into the league. And so they're mad that he they love that he's 4-0 or 5-0 or whatever. They love that they're losing. They love that the Jags look like shit. They absolutely love it. And so he has this lapse in judgment where they say, oh, look at how bad he is. Look at what he did. Oh, this is problematic. This is blah, 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 blah. And first off, the guy's with a hot blonde chick who's like grinding on him. How mad do you think his team is at him? Like really, fundamentally. I'm not saying that they're going to keep respecting him, but do you think they're angry? Like, oh, he didn't fly home with us because of that? Ugh. These are dudes that will go Von Miller has a Halloween party every year. It's in the middle of the fucking year. Chad Kelly got arrested leaving it. Like, this whole oh, we don't like it when these guys are okay. Yeah, so coach can't have a life, but you guys can have a life. And this is what they always say. Oh, why don't the college guys succeed in the professional level? Well, because they're college guys. They can't do it. These guys are getting paid. It's not like you can just tell them what to do. Okay, fine. If they're professionals, they shouldn't care if he's on the plane home with them. Right? We're all professionals. We're just a bunch of fucking mercenaries. We're adults. Hey, man, we're adults. We're not kids. We got our own lives. Okay, guy wanted to fucking hang out in his bar and get laid. Like this is the funny thing. They want it both. It's always the double talk. It's always double talk with these people. They tell you on the one hand that the NFL is professional and it's different and you need to be this. And on the other hand, oh, you better be at the front of the bus on the way back from the airport or else the team won't respect you. What? You can't do the whole player empowerment and then also this is a fucking high school bus. And I got my coach up in the front seat with the defensive coordinator and they're going over game plans. And they're watching film. Like, you guys, oh, we're professionals. Yeah, the guy decided not to, he's from Ohio, or he lives in Ohio, whatever. Is it what I would have done? No. Listen, I'm old school. I think they should all be on the bus and all on the plane. I'm old school. But whenever I come and get it like that, they're like, hey, man, you stay out of their money. It's their money, man. You got to make what you got to make. Okay. All right. Urban wants to get laid. He's got to get laid. Let him get laid. Look, this is you guys make these rules, these media fucks. They make all these crazy rules about what you can and can't fucking say, and they get it all fucking swagged out, and we got all this energy and attitude, and oh yeah, man, like, oh, athletes should get paid in college. Okay, great. What happens when you allow that and everybody on the softball team is getting like no money? How do you think the world is going to react to that? How do you think they're going to react to that? Okay, everybody on the team is making money. Nope. The quarterback's making money. A couple wide receivers are making money. Maybe an offensive lineman's making money. Maybe. Probably not. So it's not going to be all fucking dudes on the roster are going to get endorsements from Under Armour and Nike. No. It's going to be top-end earners getting the big money. By the way, that's probably how it should be. But this is the world when you have all these fucking, I'm always feeling. This is where you end up. The reality is that John Gruden got hired by the Raiders, and the guy is making a boatload of money to do it. And they don't like that. They don't like that John Gruden got another chance at the NFL. They don't like that he was on cruise control at Monday Night Football and then said, fuck it, I wanted to go back into coaching. To probably make less money, by the way. But they don't like that. They don't want you to leave their world because something's better. And they sure as hell didn't like it that the fix was in that, Al Davis's kid was going to always hire John Gruden. They wanted Eric Bieniemy or whatever. They want an African-American. We need an African-American. That's the only way we can make progress is if 75% of the coaches are black. Everybody else has to leave. John Gruden was a white guy who cut the line in their head. That was a story. Oh, because in the NFL, there's the Rooney Rule, where they have to interview so many minorities for so many positions. And, there's questions as to whether or not Mr. Davis. I don't even remember. Mark Davis. I almost called him Mike. Mark Davis, son of Al. Mark said, Mark realistically did not properly interview an African-American for that role. That was sort of one of the narratives at the time. Guess what? When an owner wants somebody, they don't really pay attention to the other interviews as much either. They're just doing the process. If they've zeroed in on a guy, that's who they want. So they do this all the time, but Mark Davis was a little more clumsy with it. So it's like, what is the problem with John Gruden? What's the problem with Urban Meyer? It always feels loaded. And mind you, both of these guys, and this is my greater point, both of these guys, their mistake, or I should say, not their mistake. Let me restart that. Both of these coaches, Coach John Gruden and Urban Meyer, are both getting harsher treatment from the media than Deshaun Watson has at all in his entire process. Why? Why is it that Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport and all these fucking guys who make their bones reporting on the NFL are suddenly interested in Urban Meyer and John Gruden? What is driving that? Deshaun Watson is credibly accused by 24 different women of sexual assault. His defense was to go and get another 20 women to come out and say, yeah, we massaged him and he was great. Why does this guy have 45 different masseuses? Why? I can understand having like 2 or 3 masseuses over the course of a couple years. I don't understand having 40 something and asking them to give you rim jobs or whatever. Yeah, the only way I can really feel it is if I'm completely naked. So, yeah, you just really want to get just get up in there, just like get in there. Meanwhile, we have people straight up still going, oh, the NFL trade deadline's in a few weeks. Do you think Deshaun Watson's going to be on the move? To what? A penitentiary? Is he playing for the longest yard? Like, why are we're talking about Urban Meyer, whatever he did, you could say it was bad or it was gross, or you could say it. Listen, the only person I think who has any right to really be mad, maybe the owner because he's cutting his check, but his wife. Urban Meyer's wife is the only person that has any right to be mad. And if you're, and for John Gruden, the only person who has any right to be mad is Dave Maurice Smith or whatever the fuck his name is, the guy he was talking about. Guess what? Those guys are scumbags. Dave Maurice Smith is a scumbag. The guy runs a fucking union, okay? Scum of the earth. All that guy cares about is keeping his bullshit job that he gets to chime in for a bunch of millionaire athletes periodically and then claim, oh, I got you a great deal, guys. Here you go. You have to get the vaccine, but here you go. Who does he represent? The NFL has been they used to throw out suspensions at guys like Ray Rice and Jameis Winston and Ezekiel Elliott. They'd throw out these suspensions at him for oh, well, we suspended Ray Rice for 3 games. Oh, well, everyone's mad, so we better make it 10 games. What? I'm sorry, your collective bargaining agreement allows for that? You probably need a new union. If you have a guy where they can suspend you and then they can double down and suspend you more because a video came out, what kind of union do you have? You have a chicken shit union, and that goes right at the fucking top. These fucking athletes, God. They're so worthless. They let this loser talk for them. And John Gruden rightfully hates the guy. Good. And then he went physical on his appearance. He went personal on his physical appearance. And now we're calling him a racist. Deshaun Watson was credibly accused of sexual assault by 24 different women. And we're like, well, he's a great quarterback. What? I don't think he's that great, by the way. I think he's a little overrated. But part of being a good quarterback is not being in prison. As Dirk Cutter used to say, the best ability is availability. And if you're in prison, you are unavailable. And there's a very realistic chance that Deshaun Watson is going to spend some time, his prime earning years, behind bars. And the media won't talk about it because, oh, well, it's a very delicate situation. Excuse me? You've been talking about some dude's fucking lips for the last week. You're still talking about it. You're still talking about Urban Meyer trying to get his dick sucked. We're still talking about that. Nothing happened there. That is the ultimate the only people that should care about that are fucking Jaguar fans. The only people who should care that Urban Meyer did not take the plane ride home and went to go finger bang or whatever. The only people who should care about that should be in Jacksonville, because they should say, hey, what the fuck, dude? Do you even care? What's the deal? I get if you're a Jaguars fan and you're like, this is irritating. But if you're a media person who has lots of fucking opinions about John Gruden or Urban Meyer, but you get real wound up tight and get quiet when Deshaun Watson comes up, fuck you. Fuck you to your very fucking core. It's pathetic. Some weak shit. I don't know what happened with Deshaun Watson and 24 different women, other than apparent interest in rim jobs. I don't know if he's a scumbag. I don't know if he belongs in prison. I don't know if he should go to prison. But there is a lot more fucking smoke there than there ever was with John Gruden or Urban Meyer. But we can't talk about black players critically anymore. We can't speak on that. He's a very good quarterback. He deserves a lot of money, and he's the future. Young black boys need to grow up and see someone who looks just like them at quarterback, so that way they can. Do they need rim jobs with that too? This is the media delusion. This is where I question people who have zero questions. And it's so frustrating for me. We spent all summer talking about Deshaun Watson going to the Dolphins and then the Eagles and then fucking Mike Florio at Pro Football Talk. When all the allegations came out, it was like, oh, well, these ladies are represented by a Trump supporter and he doesn't acknowledge the results of the election. Woo! Good work, Mike. Great fucking work. This is the problem. They think we don't notice. They think that we are going to spend a week talking about Deshaun or Urban Meyer and John Gruden and completely forget that the NFL has not done anything to deal with an alleged rapist. He's on the commissioner's exemption list. So the Texans don't have to trade him. They don't have to pay him. All of that. Oh, he's just on the exemption list. Yeah, don't think about it. We'll tuck that away. Let that sort itself out through the legal situation. We need it to play out in court, and we need to have a ruling on it before. Oh, but Ray Rice, yeah, your wife forgave you, married you after that, and didn't press charges. But yeah, you should never be allowed to play in the league again. Urban Meyer, you didn't take the plane ride home. What's your fucking problem? Yeah, you shouldn't be here anymore. John Gruden, you said this really offensive racial trope that I'm not going to explain why it's a racial trope. I'm just going to say it's a racial trope and move along and then judge you. How dare you speak ill of our union leader? This is the logic of these people. This is why you should not be forced to be in a state with them, in any sort of government, in any sort of apparatus where you're forced to take their opinions seriously. These are bad people. I'm going to say that. If you're a person who's happily talking about John Gruden or Urban Meyer or any of that kind of shit, but you are all puckered up over Deshaun Watson, not only are you a colossal pussy, you are a bad person. Because you will condemn that in which is barely condemnable, and you will stay silent when there's real problems. You are the person who eggs the mob on, but has nowhere, they don't want to be anywhere near the devastation. Because the devastation is the real thing. That's the real problem. You don't want to stand in the crossfire. You'll encourage the crossfire. You'll encourage the division. But you will not provide a solution for it. And you are a bad person for that. So Deshaun Watson, good luck to you in your legal trials and whatnot. I'm sure you'll be traded to the Dolphins just soon enough. John Gruden, that's the thing. I even fucking like John Gruden, but this is the thing. I find myself defending people I don't like because of this kind of shit. John Gruden sends an insensitive email. Cry more and fuck off. Urban Meyer doesn't fly home with the plane and he's with a girl and there's fuck off. The only people who should care are in Jacksonville. If they don't care, then no one should care. If they care, you still shouldn't care because you're not a Jaguars fan. You've been listening to the 7th Evan podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at 7th Evan. I appreciate your support. This is my longest episode to date. I'm sorry for that. But this